Okay, so welcome to the painting section of this tutorial. I've got all my stencils cut out. I've got my canvas painted blue. So now I'm going to go through some of the steps that I do to paint. So the first thing I need to do is figure out exactly where I want to place my stencil on the canvas. So this is the first layer that I'm using. You really can't see much on it because it's all clear. But you notice she doesn't have her tail in here, so I need to use another stencil to figure out exactly where her tail is going to be. So I'm going to kind of position that where I want it, like this, just to get a rough estimate. Then take the other layer down on top and just sort of half line them up, like more like line up the feet and things like that. Make sure that they're centered as best that I want them to be. So hold down the front, move the back, and so now, well, I should probably put the adhesive on there first. I use this stencil adhesive spray, and I just have a box over here that I sprayed in so I don't get it on the carpet. Just give it a quick spray there. Let it dry for just a second. So this spray is pretty low tack, and it holds really well for these stencils. So I'm gonna position that. That looks about right. Check it. Make sure the tail's not going to be off the page. Nope. Make sure I'm going to back it up just a little bit more. And recheck. That's a little too much. Okay. So that looks pretty good where I got it. So now you just gotta press and seal these edges. This is what gives it the nice, really smooth, sharp edges. Yeah, smooth and sharp at the same time. It gives you the nice clean edges is what I mean. So now I'm just going to take a sheet of paper, my scissors, not a big deal, and tuck this underneath the stencil, and between the stencil and the canvas, to mask off the other parts of the canvas that I don't want to get paint on. At this point, I've got these washers, and I just put them around the image. It just helps keep some weight down. A lot of the propellants from the spray paint are a little bit solvent, and will actually try and lift these edges up. So that's why we want to try and paint it quick with as little paint as possible. But this is just a little bit of extra insurance. You just want to make sure everything's laid out in a way that it's not covering up any of the spots that you want to paint. And that's looking pretty good. I've got a little bamboo skewer that if some little piece is giving me trouble, I can hold it down. So we're going to spray the background color of Twilight here. I have a Belton mullet towel. It's called, focus on that, not really, lilac. I've got just another little box that I spray into to make sure that I have the right consistency of paint, that it's coming out in a good mist. Before you paint, just make sure everything's sealed down nice. Okay, so we're going for as little paint as possible, but to get the coverage we want. So you hold the can about 8 inches, maybe a little more away, and just short sprays. Try and get everything down. Okay, so we've got it all covered, but there's still a few spots here you can't really see it that are a little light. So I'm just going to come over in an extra pass. And that's that's pretty much it. Now we let it dry. This paint, because one, we're using so little paint, and two, because it's a faster drying acrylic paint, this should be good to go in about 10 minutes or less. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. I'm going to be doing one video per layer and then just kind of stitch them all together. So we'll be back here in just a minute. Okay, so a good bit of time has passed, and you can tell it's dry. You get used to it with the different kind of paints that you use to see that it's dry. It kind of takes a different kind of sheen. Again, something you can practice with. Then you can just rub it a little bit with your finger, make sure it's dry. So we just pop all this extra weight off and very gently peel up. So sometimes if you spray a little too much paint, it will stick onto the stencil and the canvas, like it'll overlap like this, and when you peel it up, it'll actually peel up a bit off the canvas. And we can fix that, but it's better to just be careful and not make any mistakes than to have to try and fix them. Any mistake, I'll be pointing out any mistakes I make while making this piece, and then I'll show you how I fix them. So this stencil's done. I'll just set it off to the side. So if I want to use it again, and here is our first layer. So I'm looking, after I'm done, I always want to run my fingers around the edge, and just if there's any little bits that were sticking up along the edge of the canvas, I smooth those down. And let's see if you can, I don't know if you can see it, like right here there was a little bit lifted up, but that's okay, we can fix that, no problem. Again, just sort of test it, make sure that it's not super sticky before we put down the next layer, and then rip a bunch of stuff up. So our next layer is Twilight's detail sheet. So same step as last time. Take the spray. Actually, hold on. Let me get a picture. Okay. Alright, so now this one we're going to have to be a little more careful, just because there's a lot of little lines we have to line up properly. So just take your time, get one edge set, and then kind of work all the other ones down. You want to make sure it's as absolutely smooth as possible. Any little air bubbles will tend to work their way back towards the edge of painting, and you'll get some underspray in some different areas, and that's never good. So that looks about right. I'm just lifting it up to take a look for a minute. And a little more down here. It's always good to just kind of lift it up and move it around. Make sure that it's lined up exactly where you want it. Take the time. Don't make any mistakes. And trust me, you'll make mistakes. I've made just tons of them. And it just helps you become a better painter. If you move your stencil around too much, you may have to reapply your adhesive. I think we're good. This placement looks really good. Make sure you just really focus on getting everything sealed down properly. Especially these tiny little details in the legs. Oh, that's kind of glaring. These little details in the legs here, in the hand. Nope, that's actually not right. Fix it again. I find if I'm doing like a Pegasus, wings are something that make me reposition way too much. Way too much. Okay. That looks good. Sometimes it helps to get a little bit closer to the canvas. Oh, son of a bitch. Usually don't have this much trouble. Sometimes what you can do is you can like line up like 1 foot. Make sure that it's lined up really well, and then start just working the rest of the way around. Keep kind of tending it. Get it all lined up properly. Okay, that looks good. So we'll get our masking material back under. There's the top one. Okay. Make sure, especially these tiny little lines, you want to just absolutely make sure are pressed down. So it's really easy for paint to snake up underneath them. Okay, and then anytime you lift it up to put your paper underneath it, make sure you reseal. Go ahead and set these back around. Get one more. Here. Okay. So this is the next one we're using. It is Montana 94. That's her inner fill color. Okay, that's good. And now, because we're kind of doing a light purple on top of another light purple, you just have to be careful to make sure that you get every little bit covered. Okay, and that looks good. For that one, I will start up another video here in a second after I let this dry. Okay, so giving it some time to dry, I'm going to let this one off and start with her hair. Probably not do too much more commentary, just not very necessary. What? Awesome. Grab a picture real fast. Oof. That's better. Cool. Alright, so the next one, I'm going to use, well, labels coming off. It's a Belt and Molotov Sapphire Blue. And this is the hair, number 3. Like always. Alright, so we'll get these out of the way. Let it dry for a second. I mean, it's a very repetitive process. You can see. Once you sort of have the steps down, and you just sort of go through the motions. I mean, eventually you do it. You do this often enough, and you don't even really think about what you're doing anymore. You just kind of do it, which is cool, I guess. I mean, it used to take me a long time to do every piece that I was working on, but now. Now that I can do a full piece in just a couple of hours, it just depends on my motivation more than anything. do I really want to buckle down and do it? If it's something that I'm like really keen on doing, I can get stuff done really quick. We need more sheets. Like the rarity painting I did and the commission that I did for the other guy just a couple weeks back. Both of those I did really, really fast. I just wanted to. I was so interested in the project and the different things working that I had to think about while working on it that I just kind of immediately just kept going. Yep. There we go. Okay. Make sure that's all sealed down. That's bad. That's okay. Okay, good. So again, just get these washers sort of in place. Make sure your edges are sealed, especially around like the horn and little spots where you have a bunch of different colors converging. It's a good thing to make sure your lines, your edges are pressed on properly. I find sometimes inverting the can to shake works a little bit better. Alright, that cap is spraying in an odd pattern, so I'll clean it out later, maybe, or just throw it away. So I got a new cap on there. Much better. Darker ones are easier to see that you've got everything down, and coverage looks pretty good. You probably notice I'm painting inside. So I live in Seattle, and the weather is not great during the winter, and it's turning good now. But I found since I use so little paint each time I'm doing it, painting inside isn't a big deal. I live by myself, so I don't have anybody yelling at me about it. It's a little easier that way. So I'll let this dry, and then we'll move on to hair details. Or no, what was it? Hair fill color. Yeah, pretty much from here on out, I'm not going to be talking too much during these unless there's something somewhat important for me to talk about that I run into. Oh, yeah, okay. So yeah, I do have something to talk about here. With the stencil adhesive, you can get everything sealed down really well, except these little lines never want to seem to stay down. So pay a lot of extra attention to them, and try and spray over them in like one go, if at all possible. Just save yourself the hassle. These be the death of me one of these days. Well, not really. It's a bit of an exaggeration, I'm sure. You really want to, I mean, when in doubt, just absolutely make sure that you're masking properly. You don't want to get a bunch of crap on your canvas, then have to worry about it later. Okay, where's my... Okay, that looks good. Okay, so just really make sure these lines are down, especially when they're as small as this. Okay, now our navy blue. I didn't use the washers on that one. That's okay. All right, so let's see how this all turned out. Alright, so let's talk about a few little errors. If you doubt you'll be able to see them. These are a little light in a few spots where it didn't stick down. I can touch that up with a just a little bit of paint and a tiny paintbrush. This you might be able to see here between the face and the hair. There's a little gap. I think maybe the hair was shifted over a little to the right. Again, that can be touched up with a little bit of paint when everything's said and done. I do most of my touch-ups at the end, unless it's something like horribly egregious, and then I'll do it in between the different layers. So now we're going into hair detail. This one's pink and mouth. So now we're going to be doing multiple colors per stencil. In this instance, we're going to be doing the pink of the hair and the magenta of the mouth. When I first started painting ponies and realized that their mouth is magenta and their tongue is orange, I thought that pretty odd, but I mean, whatever. In fact, where's my orange paint? It's around here somewhere. Oh, it's on the counter. So yeah, this stencil adhesive, I really like it. For the longest time I used 3M Super 77, which works great. And I still do use it sometimes, but you have to be a little more careful with it. It's more aggressive and can leave residue on the canvas. So I learned from Mittens to what does he do? He takes like a plastic placemat or something and sticks the stencil onto the placemat before he puts on the canvas, and then makes sure it removes a bunch of the extra residue. And kicks that there. I mean, when you watch this, it's not the most engaging thing to watch. Generally, I do a bunch of different stuff while I'm painting. I watch a movie or play some games or just something, because painting takes just a couple of minutes to do any one thing, but letting everything dry takes a while. And that is your bottleneck. If you use the washers like I do, eventually they're going to get a bunch of paint on them, and some of that paint may start trying to chip off, and that can give you some problems. So just make sure you keep your area clean. Grab this little sheet of paper that I've been sort of using for a bunch of different stuff. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm just cutting a little piece to cover the mouth, and I just throw a weight over the top of it while I paint the hair, and then I'll cover up the hair as I paint the mouth. Just kind of keep your caps clean. So I use these blue dot caps, and I find sometimes that the Montana 94 gets clogged up a little bit when you're using them. So if you need to change caps are really cheap. Don't worry about doing it. Just go ahead and change them out. I think caps are like $20 for like 100 of them, and 100 will last you a good long time. This Montana paint's really, really nice. It's got such good pigment, you barely need to use any of it to get just excellent coverage. No, that's no, you're Eric. Where's Richard? There you are. I thought that looked a little dark. I bet I used the wrong paint. Yeah, that cap is busted. Okay. So what we'll do is just remove those two. Tuck that down. Weight it, and don't worry about putting the little scrap of paper over some wet paint. It holds down just fine. Again, make sure it's all sealed. Just give it a quick blast. That's it. But you don't want to leave it on. Go ahead and lift it back up. Cool. All right, that's it for this one. Stepping away, I had to grab my orange paint for the tongue. All right. Ta-da! I mean, as you progress through your different layers, the last ones get easier and easier to do because you've usually done most of the detail work at the beginning. Yeah, I mean that's the next one here. I mean I can go and talk about it real quick. So the next two sheets are, well, that's kind of hard to see. Yeah, okay. So this is like Twilight's details and some stuff with the teeth, and this is her eyes and teeth. I could probably have put this all on one sheet instead of printing out two. I would have just like selected the head on both of them and put them on the same sheet like that. I don't know why I didn't do it. I didn't think to. But anyway, so just two more short clips, and this one will be done. There are 3 short clips. Okay, down to the eyes, teeth, and last details. There we go. And then we will do touch-ups. Finally, the last layer, which will be an acrylic spray. Alright, so for this one, because it's so much of a small area, I'm not really going to use the washers except to hold down my little piece of masking paper. Alright, that one's gummed up. So if you're replacing the cap, all you just pull the other one off. Don't press down because, I mean, obviously it'll spray. Just kind of press and turn just a little bit. Very gentle. You don't need much pressure. Okay. One important thing is always just make sure your hands are clean so that you don't wipe paint in there. If you need to, wear rubber gloves. I used to do that. I still do sometimes, but for the most part, not anymore. Okay, looks good. Okay. Just kicked the tripod. Wonderful. Sorry about that. Okay. And that's going to be the last layer. So once this is dry, I'm going to try and get a better shot of any imperfections that are in the painting. Oh, I should take this off. At which point we will patch those up, and we'll be done. Okay, and so we come to the end of painting. We remove our stencil and our masking material, and now we look at what we have to fix. Providing a little bit of extra light here. So one thing I see that's not perfectly lined up is I need to add a little more blue by the teeth. You can maybe see a little bit of white there. Here is the spot where I have to extend the face color just a little bit. Got a tiny little bit of dark blue here that I'd like to paint over. A little bit here, but man, it's tough to see. There's a little bit of pink that went outside the line there, and I want to fill that in. So to do this, I'm just going to be using paintbrushes that I've got, plus some of plus the spray paint that I've been using this whole time. That's the best way to match the color. So just take one of my sheets that I've been using, and just put a little bit of paint down. Reach over and grab some more paintbrushes. And so first off, we're going to do the dark blue that we've got to fill in. You just dab a tiny little bit, work it off. I'm using my headlamp just so I've got good lighting. You can see it pop into frame here a little bit. Okay. Sorry, I've got to hold this kind of weird, but I can't really film and paint properly at the same time. I'd rather the painting look proper than you see me drawing a couple of straight lines here and there. So when you're doing these tiny little bits of paint like this, it moves, like the paint dries so fast. You don't even really need to worry about it because you're just putting down just minute amounts of paint. Touch up. So this is where you can spend a whole bit of time, like making sure that got everything perfect, and you can probably obsess about it a little bit much. I used to do that. I've tried to take it a little bit easy. So now we're doing the face. Some of the paints are a little thin when they first come out, so it's good to just kind of mix them around a little bit and let them dry. This might be a little big. Having a steady hand here is very, very helpful. If you've had previous experience painting, this is the one spot where that really helps. So one thing about doing touch-ups is putting paint down with a brush will look different than the paint you put down with the can. It just doesn't come out in that super fine mist. It can actually even be slightly different looking as far as the reflection, whether it's like it looks more glossy than matte. So I've started using a matte spray, like acrylic spray that I spray over the entire painting when it's finished, and that helps balance out a little bit. Actually, I can see it. You can see, oh yeah, in the light like that. You can see some colors are more reflective than others. I think it's the Belton is a little more reflective than the Montana. Do you specifically say matte paint? I don't know if you do. I think it is. But that one specifically says matte paint. But it all looks good with the matte acrylic spray over the top of it anyway. What else needed? Needed this one. I find the Belton works usually a little bit better for touch-ups than the Montana does. It's a little more. It's a little easier to paint with, like as soon as you put it down. Yeah, so once I spray the acrylic down, I usually say I'm done. I try and fix any little problems I see before I get to that point, because at that point you can paint on top of the acrylic spray, but I kind of don't like doing it. It can look a little weird. Where's this one? And don't be afraid to do a couple of layers in certain places if it's a little too light. Like I had a little bit here on the cheek that was a little too light. You could still see some of the blue in the back. Let me see if I can get the light on this in such a way that you can see the texture difference. Yeah, you can sort of see the texture difference, like right here in the cheek. But again, that hides itself pretty well once we use the spray. Cool. And yeah, the teeth would be this one. If your hand starts shaking, stop painting. The last thing you want to do is drag a brush across the face. Muck it up. There's one piece I want to fix, but I need another brush. I'll be right back. Navy. Alright, that looks good. So I'm just gonna, here's the spray. This is the spray I use. It's just a Krylon matte finish I got at the art store. Just a little bit across the entire face is good. I'm not gonna film that because I generally spray that outside. And that's pretty much it. So from doing stuff on the computer to finished piece, there it is. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial.